Hello, my name is Andrew. I've been thinking a lot lately about what I do and do not give my attention to. I've come to the conclusion that I ought to promote what I believe to be good and ignore what is not. This is because what we give attention to is what flourishes. We become what we consume, and encouragement is more effective than discouragement. What we give attention to is what flourishes. You may have heard the phrase, "don't feed the troll." What this phrase means is that the goal of trolls is to seek attention. By giving attention to their negative actions, you only encourage them to do it more to get more attention. We all seek attention to some degree. If someone gets attention for their idea, they are more likely to spread it, despite the merits of that idea. This is especially true of sites like YouTube, where popular videos gain money. You don't have to make good content, you just have to get people to click on the video. The fact that attention spreads ideas is more relevant today than ever before. Videos and posts online are made relevant by their views and comments. On YouTube, more views gets you more promotion. On forums, more responses bumps your post up. This function is not linear either. The more people consume a given piece of content, the more people become interested in it. Someone might not have cared if a controversy garnered 10 views, but at 1 million views, it's much more likely to be visited by people scrolling through content. And viewing and commenting on content that is good, you make people more likely to see the content, ultimately increasing its influence. In watching negative content, it is also promoted. You might not be influenced by the content, but your view and possibly comments ultimately push the video into the spotlight where more susceptible viewers take it seriously. As an example, there are a radical group of preachers that come to my college campus. The only reason they are there is to garner attention. They leave if people ignore them enough. The more people join in the crowd, though, the more comfortable people are standing by and adding attention to the flames. On the flip side, when I was involved on the Hypixel forums, I would try my best to engage in dialogue on threads that I thought other people should read. This kept the threads at the top, and my comments acted as a signal to other readers that the thread was a worthwhile read. Someone might counter, saying that some bad ideas will continue to spread until confronted with proper rebuke. This is somewhat true. There are stupid ideas that need to be called out for what they are. But all it usually takes is one person to call it out. It is best that that person is as educated as possible on the given issue to make the most convincing counter-response possible. It is also important to distinguish rebuke from controversy. The issue is that many people insult the makers of poor content rather than offering advice. This creates arguments which, sadly, often promotes the content. When it comes down to it, I would argue that many conspiracy theories and harmful ideas are only propagated because well-knowing people consume the content rather than watching a video that debunks their theory. Ignore what is bad, promote what is good. We become what we consume. We are the product of our surroundings. Very few of our beliefs, knowledge, and creativity comes from ourselves. Even artists are inspired by others' creations. Some things have a bigger impact on us than others. Ultimately, though, every thought and experience shapes our brain to give us a better understanding of the world around us. It is often believed that we can keep ourselves from being tainted by negative ideas and practices so long as we recognize that they are wrong. This is simply not true. Every experience creates a pathway in our brain. Similar experiences affirm certain pathways. For instance, I do not consider swearing appropriate. However, after coming to ASU and hearing enough swearing, some of my thoughts began to use profanity. Once even, one of these thoughts slipped. I have always believed, and likely always will believe, that swearing is wrong. I've told myself that in all of my interactions. However, associating swearing with everyday speech led me to act accordingly. The same things happen when we consume bad content. We begin to see stupid claims as a little bit more reasonable. We begin to see destructive actions as normal and more acceptable. Our vision of reality itself is shaped by who we interact with. Our minds are not free. We must guard it accordingly. That being said, if one consumes good content, they will begin to act accordingly. If you fill your mind with good ideas, and motivational thoughts, you will be motivated. You'll begin to have good ideas yourself. And it's funny how innate this is. Merely smiling and acting as if you are happy makes you happier. There's an old saying that goes, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. In doing this, we become pure, right, admirable, and praiseworthy. We are forming those habits and pathways in our brains that lead to success, rather than giving our time to things we shouldn't be filling our minds with. There are two counterpoints to this argument that I would like to briefly discuss. The first is that it is important to have time to relax and watch whatever, regardless of its constructive content. I do agree that some free time is important. However, it is very easy to find something both enjoyable and constructive to engage in at the same time. If you haven't found such an activity, you should really look harder. Second, not all things are bad to consume. You could learn something from those things. Educate yourself. You could discover how someone else thinks, despite them having a bad view. And finally, you could find a speck of truth or a good underlying idea in that bad content. All of these arguments are valid. I do not promote ignorance. It is important to understand the bad in the world, why people embrace it, and what can be salvaged from that poor content. Giving attention to things that are bad for these reasons are valid, though it ought to be done merely for these reasons to minimize the effect of the first principle, which is what we give attention to is what flourishes. It would also be wise to disseminate this information to limit the interaction with the source of the bad. Ignore what is bad, promote what is good. Encouragement is more effective than discouragement. There's a comic I really like where there are two mothers standing with their daughters. Each pair is looking at a man sweeping debris on the other side of the road. The first mother turns to her daughter and says, "If you don't get good grades, you'll end up like him one day." The second mother turns to their daughter and says, "If you study hard, you'll be able to help people like him someday." Which kid do you think will succeed in the end? It is much more effective to encourage actions that are worthwhile than to discourage things that are not. People may spite you if you discourage them, but if you frame things in such a way that you encourage them to do the right things, they will appreciate it and remember the compliment next time they make a similar choice. Not only does encouragement facilitate positive change, but it also makes the individual feel better about themselves. This is good, by definition. There's no reason to make people feel worse about themselves by discouraging bad actions. When we encourage good actions, it could make someone's day. To illustrate this, I will draw upon an example from my own life. In 7th grade, I had a grudge against one of my classmates. They were rude, disrespectful, arrogant, and prideful. I could not stand for this and called them out whenever they acted inappropriately. I discouraged this individual and only sought to cause them trouble whenever they acted up. Needless to say, this didn't work. The student laughed in my face. They didn't care. I changed a lot when I got to high school. I wasn't as legalistic anymore. My goal went from judging others to loving my neighbors. I made friends with everyone in school. In 11th grade, I had the opportunity to get this aforementioned classmate better, get to know him better. I took this opportunity to encourage his skills and talents. I called him out when he did things right. I made him feel good about who he was rather than bad for who he wasn't. We quickly became best friends. Through my encouragement, my friend began to change. He took what I said to heart. Those rare good actions turned into everyday habits. By the end of this guy was one of the most honorable students in my class. I would go into more detail, but I think you get the picture. I tried discouraging for years. Then one day I decided to encourage the same person. That's all it took. If you promote the positive in others, they shine. If you call out the evil in this world, it won't make a difference. I've not had a life lesson more true than this one. I have seen time and time again that change comes from a positive attitude. Focusing on the negative is almost always bound to fail. Please note that this is not an argument against accountability. Accountability involving two consenting parties is good. This is an argument that ultimately encouraging people to do the right thing is much more effective than discouraging them from doing the wrong thing. Ignore what is bad, promote what is good. This will ultimately make the world a better place as it allows good things to flourish, makes ourselves better individuals, and finally, it is the most effective method of creating more good. Thank you very much for listening. If this video was worth your time, please leave a like. If not, just leave a dislike. Please share if you think someone else might find this insightful, and subscribe if you want more videos like this. Until next time, don't forget to contribute and make the most of your day.